Welcome back to Callahan's Corner, where you ask the questions, we answer them live right here on Facebook. So this is a second try at this video. I had some technical issues yesterday, but question submitted was how to actually go out and handle your snow removal commercially. And I'm actually going to show a residential example as well. So I'm actually going to pull up the question from yesterday. And what drove my memory is it was another question, very similar. Person wants to know about square foot pricing for plowing, salting, sidewalks. Another one in one of the snow removal groups, I believe it was Michigan Snow Plowing and Landscaping. Gentleman wanted some help, how to price snow removal on sidewalks. So what I'm going to do is break down how to go out and create industry specific or production rates based on your own equipment for a plow, a skid steer, a loader, potentially a backhoe, hand shoveling, sidewalk, snow blowers, a quad, a broom, and different attachments. And then as well as going out and salting parking lots with either a tailgate spreader or up to a 5-yard V-box spreader or up to an 8-yard V-box spreader on a triaxle. And then also going in and spreading ice melt or calcium chloride mix on sidewalks with a 50-pound push spreader, or approximately 100-pound spread on the back of a quad. So we're going to break that all down, how to do that all here on Callahan's Corner, and then break into some ways to install that inside your software to create a production rate-based estimating system. So any comments or questions during this, let us know. But as you can tell here, it is cooling off. And if you haven't started renewing those contracts, now is the time to go out and get those bids and contract renewals for snow removal up and running. So I'm going to pop my screen open here and give you a little context first how we do this, and then show you how to actually go out and create an estimating process around this. So obviously you want to go out and do your own research. I've got some industry averages here that are applicable. They're conservative. Ideally, you want to run these reports on your own model first. So this piece of paper, or basically this Google Doc that you're looking at, is, I call it the SimpleGrowth blueprint. So whether you're doing lawn care, snow removal, home cleaning, or anything else in between, this is where we start. We're going to blueprint your system, and then we're going to create a standardized production rate-based estimating system, which I'm going to dive into and show you how we measure it online and automate those pricing. So first thing we would do is, if we have a plow truck with a V-blade, or say a whiteout, depending on a Western or Fisher, a lot of them have those whiteouts. We're averaging around 35,500 square feet between 0 and 6 inches. Now we can break it down from 0 to 2, 2 to 4, and so on. But on average, I'm grabbing it between 0 and 6 inches in my example here. And what we're going to do is say between 1 and X amount of square feet, the maximum area that you would plow. What is your base price to get out of bed? The minimum. So I'm going to plug in and say, well, my minimum to show up for a parking lot is 75 bucks. Obviously, this is fictitious, but I want to show you how the methodology of this works. Now, your dollar per man hour charge, let's say we wanted to get $115 for a plow truck, and it was costing us $68 break even for machine, overhead, labor, and labor burden. So fully even, it's 68 bucks per hour of man and machine before you make a profit. So now in the sheet here, what I've got is I've got between 1 and, let's say I will cover 10,000 square feet for my $75 lot. Now, based on that production, it's 0.28 man hours. So if I went in and put the industry average that I'm ballparking here at 35,500 square feet an hour, the sheet gives us 1 budgeted hour. So we know the math in the sheet is right. But I'm going to say up to 10,000 square feet, I'm charging 75 bucks. It should take me 0.28 man hours, and it's costing me $19.15 break even before I make a profit. So up to 10,000 square feet is fictitiously 75 bucks. And we're going to budget 0.28 man hours on site, and it's costing us $19.15. That's a 74% net profit margin. So now we've set our base price. I'm going to say every 1,000 square feet over my 10,000 base price is, and the sheet automatically calculates it based on the 115 bucks an hour, that we should be charging $3.24 per 1,000 to get 115 bucks an hour. It's taking 0.03 man hours, and it's costing us $1.92. So what we've done now is broken out a truck with a V-blade, and we're going to go in the same manner, and I'm going to go in and go to my skid steer with an 8-foot box plow on it. So the same manner, I'm going to say, okay, based on that, I'm going to do the same 10,000 square feet and 1,000 over, okay? And maybe my minimum for the skid steer now is $100 to show up for that because it got more overhead. And for that skid steer, I want to make 135, and maybe it's costing me $85 an hour to operate. So what we've done here is created a minimal up to 10,000 square feet, budgeted break even, or budgeted hours, and then a break even. And then I'm going to say, once again, every 1,000 over my 10,000 is $3.16 more. So you can see, based on the different rates, we can go out and manipulate it. So the charge per 1,000 is $3.24 here versus the $3.16 because our production has gone out. So we've gone up from about 35,000 coverage per hour to about almost 43,000. So you want to manipulate the numbers so they make sense in your business. But this is how we would break out the production rates. And now the next one we're going to go into is a backhoe with a 12-foot box plow pusher. So same thing, I'm going to say my minimum is 10,000 square feet, and that's $145 for that backhoe. And what we're going to do is go in, we've got budgeted hours, and let's say we need 150 an hour for the backhoe, and it's costing us 100. Same idea, and then we would go every 1,000 over the base price of 10, and then we've got a price per 1,000 there, and we've got hours and cost. Now the last example here is going in and putting a 16-foot box plow in there. So let's say we keep our same example of 10,000 square feet, and our loader with a 16-foot box plow is going to be 175.8 hours, and I'm going to bring in our cost of let's say 175 an hour, and it's costing us 110. Obviously, these numbers are fictitious. You want to use your own numbers, but I'm trying to show you how we can have different production rates per piece of equipment and charge different for a minimal, or keep the minimal the same and open up the square footage that it covers as well. So there's different variations of how you want to tackle that in your business. And then every 1,000 over the 10,000 here is this rate, budget hours, and cost. So once you have those built out, we're going to go into the software and start building this out in a production rate-based estimating system where the consumer is not going to see what piece of equipment it is, but we're going to select the appropriate piece of equipment for the property. Now, next thing is a lot of the questions we're looking at is how do we handle salting? So I've got a V-box salter here with up to 5 cubic yards. So that could be a 2, 3, or 5 cubic yard salter. On average, they traditionally are going to be covering production rate about the same. So what we're going to do is I'm going to say from 1 to 1,000 square feet, and I'm going to say my charge per hour is 150 for my salter, and before expense or materials, it's costing me, let's say, 90 bucks. So last thing we're looking at is what is our cost per ton? So on average, at least in the Northeast, you're looking at about a half a ton per acre coverage for bulk rock salt. So I'm going to say my cost per ton that I buy it for is $80. I'm going to put that in there. Now what it's going to do is calculate my cost per 1,000 feet of salt material. So our fully break even here in this example is it's costing us $1.67 labor and materials per 1,000. So maybe we bump this up to say, okay, our base price is 10,000 square feet. It's costing us $16.80 or $16.68, and maybe I won't show up for less than $100 to salt, which isn't too uncommon in the Northeast. So that's about an 83% net profit margin. And then we can say every 1,000 over the 10,000 is X amount of dollars more, price, budgeted time, and cost. So maybe we're doing it in 10,000 square foot increments. So that's a way that we can break that down, all depending how you do your markets. But we can break it down per square foot if you want. And then we've got a tailgate spreader, it'd be the same idea. And we've got a V-box salter with an 8 cubic yard triaxle. Same idea there. Last thing is sidewalk shoveling and snow blowing. How do we break that out? How do we actually build this out? So sidewalk shoveling, I'm going to say every 1,000 square feet. I would recommend, because this is part of the other question, is I would keep a minimum between 1,000 and about 1,200 or 1,300 square feet as your minimum and at your increment, because if you're going out and treating that with a bagged product of calcium chloride or sodium chloride mix, you're probably not going to go out and just use half a bag. So I would say whatever that coverage is, that would be your minimum incremental shift is what we found pretty good for our company. So I'm going to do it every 1,000. Shoveling, we're going to be around 2,100 square feet production. And we are going to be charging, it's costing me $32.38 in this example. So maybe I want to make $95 per hour. And the cost of my crew is maybe 45. It's usually a little bit lower overhead because it's just labor. So maybe we're charging $45 per 1,000. That would be the way we set this up. Now, same idea, we can go in and build out snow blowing, sidewalk broom, sidewalk walk behind broom, and we've got a sidewalk quad with plow blade and ice melt with 50-pound spreader. So let's go into the final example here for ice melt. And we also below it have one with a 100-pound spreader. But this is how we break it out in my company as well as the other companies we're helping with. So let's go in and do 1,000 square feet. And we've got our ice melt. So in this example, we have not built that out yet, but I can pull that equation in here shortly. Let's see if we've got it over here. So I'm going to go back into my cost per acre. So I would basically take this down on the live Facebook. It's not going to worth me recalculating the formulas, but the idea is I would have a price per 1,000 square feet or price per square foot for the 50-pound spreader, but it would work out just like the V-Box Salter. So this sheet is not completely finished here when we updated the new version, but I would add that in there. But the idea is you plug that in and you've got the same thing, labor materials based on 1,000 or 1,200 square foot sidewalk. So the other question that came in is people were like, well, how wide is a sidewalk? Well, based on the length and width of the sidewalk, you'll see in our example, we'll be able to be accurate no matter how wide the sidewalk is. We're basing it on square footage. So once you have this built out, the next thing you probably want to do is go into a product like we use is Service Autopilot. And I'll show you how to take these and build this out into a template and kind of hide the equipment detail from the client. If you're looking at this, before I forget to, if you're a part of Service Autopilot, if you go up top and go to the marketplace, first thing here is the SimpleGrowth snow removal estimate and contracts. If you're interested in the contractual language and everything we've built out in my business, we're actually sharing that on the marketplace. So you're going to hit view and check out the details of that. But I'm just really going to show you how to do this in today's video. So first thing we want to do is always go into the gear icon here and create a custom field. So custom field is going to be that church or the sidewalk square footage and parking lot square footage. So to make it easier, I'm going to add a custom field in here. I'm just going to put 3 zeros in front of everything so we can pull them up quickly because we have a lot of custom fields. Parking lot square footage. I'm going to associate to the customer, and I'm going to actually make this a number so we can do some math on it. I'm going to save a new, and I'm also going to go in and put sidewalk square footage. And that is the area that we are going to plow or snow blow or shovel and put some sidewalk melt on there. So that's the first thing. We always want to take that from our blueprint for SimpleGrowth blueprint and then put it in the system. So once you get this in the system, once again, it's got to be a number and it's got to be save it in here. Now, if you're using work orders and you want that, that square footage to show up on the work order on the mobile, that's how you put it in there. So once we've gone in there, we've kind of gone into the SimpleGrowth blueprint here. And I'm going to kind of go from top to bottom. I won't do the whole thing, but give you some examples. So we're going to go into that V-blade production here. And what I've done is my custom field right here, the one I've put in is the parking lot square footage. Now, what we could do if we really want to dial it in is go back to custom fields and make an additional custom field for each piece of equipment. So we've got the V-blade customer or V-blade square footage. So if we have a parking lot we're hitting with a V-blade versus a loader versus skid, we can break that out. That's going to give us that granularity. So this is kind of the next level of it. If you're using all the same piece of equipment, you would just have parking lot square footage and sidewalk square footage. So I want to kind of break that down for you, so you have an idea of what that looks like. So I'm going to put a couple of these in here so you can see, and I'll put the skid steer in there. I'll also put the loader in here so you can actually see how this plays out with several different pieces of equipment. Or actually, I'll put the backhoe, the 12-foot pusher, but same exact process with the loader as well. And that's going to be a number. So now, next thing we need to do is go in and do the shoveling square footage or quad. I'm going to leave it just generic right now as Sidewalk, but if you have different pieces of equipment that you do Sidewalk removal with, you want to build those custom fields out, and I'll show you why in a minute. So once I've built the custom fields, I need to go in and actually create these services. So we're going to go in and hit service and start building this out. Now this full transparency can be built out from several different ways. I'm going to do this as a per trip, but this can be done in this methodology for per trip per inch, or unlimited contract, or a contract with a retainer and overages. So different ways to tackle it, but the foundational setup of the service and the production rates are going to be pretty much identical. So first thing I'm going to do here is just go back into my industry average sheet, my pricing matrix blueprint, and I'm going to do plow truck V-blade. And I'm going to put in the service name. I'm going to put a code in. I am going to put a per unit, an invoice description, and account. Actually, you know what? I am going to make a parent service first and show you where we plug in the child services, because this will actually make a little more sense in a per push instance. So I'm going to start with that 00 just so I can find it. I'm going to put commercial snow removal, and I'm going to copy and paste that into the areas that we need. Now, obviously, you want an invoice description and some other things, just like you can pull off the template here in Service Autopilot off the marketplace from SimpleGrowth. But for time's sake, I'm just going to set this up here so it's kind of set it and forget it for speed. So I'm going to go in and save and new, and then I am going to start plugging in the different types of equipment that we have for this process. So there we go, save and new. And it looks like it, oh, there we go. So it just loaded. Internet's been really crazy around here with kids on Zoom and everything else, so bear with me here. But the idea is now we've created that parent service. Now we're going to go in and create a child service for our V-blade. And that is going to be our 000 commercial snow plow. I'm going to continue that naming convention so it's easier to find these. And we're going to use this in estimates only. And on our rate matrix here, quantity rate times visit, I'm going to go in now and grab my V-blade square footage. And I'm going to go right from the industry average sheet that we have here from SimpleGrowth and copy that right in there. So 1 to 10,000 is $75. And like I said, these are fictitious prices, so don't take this as anything you should be following. But I want to give you the methodology. 0.28 man hours and 1915 is our cost. And then we're going to go every 1,000 over the 10,000. Once again, these top 5 lines transfer in automatically. These bottom 5 lines transfer in automatically as well. So that's why we call it our blueprint. We're following the blueprint. So every 1,000 over 10,000 is 324 and 0.03 hours. And a cost of $1.92. So obviously you want to make sure your cost is less than your price. That's a good way of checking this to make sure you're doing your math correctly here when you build this out yourself. And we're going to save and new. So I'm going to build this out in a way where we have the truck, the skid steer, and the backhoe. And then I also put one together for the sidewalks quickly. And then I'm going to show you how to pull those services into a template and create a process for estimating. So a little bit longer video here, but I think it's worthwhile for everybody to see how this actually goes together. Because this is the time of the year that you want to be doing this. Any comments or questions, feel free to drop them in as well. So we're going to go in and create our skid steer. I'm still going to put that same naming convention so I can find it in the beginning. I'm going to use that for estimates only, and I'm using commercial snow removal. Once again, I'm going in, calculation, and I'm going into my 8-foot pusher, skid steer, and I'm going to say 1, 2, and I'm going right back to the SimpleGrowth blueprint here. 1 to 10,000 is $100. 3.23, and I'm just pulling these numbers right here. 0.23 and a 1991 is our cost break even. And 100.23. And then we're going to go in and take the bottom part of the SimpleGrowth blueprint here is every 1,000 over 10,000 is $3.16. And budget hours 0.02 and $1.99. So it's 0.02 man hours and $1.99 is what it's costing us. We're charging $3.16. So once again, you're just pulling these numbers directly off the SimpleGrowth blueprint. So this allows you to blueprint and then implement. Now the last one I'm going to do is example is a 12-foot backhoe with a 12-foot pusher. That's a mouthful here on a Tuesday. But same exact thing here. We're going to go in. I'm going to do the same naming convention so I can find it. Obviously, you wouldn't have 3 zeros in front of it in your example. Using estimates, and I've got that in. And our rate matrix, once again, we're grabbing that formula. I'm grabbing the backhoe, 12-foot pusher, and I'm going in back into the SimpleGrowth blueprint again and grabbing my 10,000 square feet for $1.45. And we have 0.2 man hours for $20 break even. And I'm going to go back to my blueprint and take every 1,000 over 10,000 is $3. $3, and we need our budgeted time and cost break even. So 0.02 hours and $2 break even. That is 0.02. Right, and the last one was $2. So we're making $1 profit every time we plow 1,000 square feet in this instance. So now we're going to go out and hit save. I'm going to go back to the industry average here and grab a second set of services for sidewalk shoveling. That was part of the question here at Callahan's Corner. So I'm going to mark that $45 per 1,000. And based on the budgeted hours. Perfect. So actually, I'll make this 50. Makes a little more sense now. What we're going to do is go out, same exact thing, and just do sidewalk shoveling. Like I said, you can break this down per shovel, snowblower, and other pieces of equipment. And we're going to go into services once again, and we're going to use the generic square footage for this one, just for time. So add a service. A little quick on the click here. Once again, any questions or comments, feel free to drop them in the live or recorded version, and we will answer them for you. So once again, this is not going to be a child service. This is just going to be basically clearing by itself just for time's sake here. But obviously, you can break down each piece of equipment like we did for the plowing. And we're going to grab that sidewalk square footage. So maybe you don't have snow blowers, you just shovel. That would be okay in this instance. We're going to go back to the blueprint then. 1 to 1,000 is 50. And that is taking 0.48 hours, costing us $21.43. That was that question for the snowplow group out in Michigan, how this is broken out. This is it. So you really don't want to base it on other people in your industry or people nationwide. What's your goal per man hour? If it's $95 and it's costing $45, this is what you really need to charge based on a production rate. So every 1,000 over 1,000 is $45.24. So it's a little bit cheaper in this fictitious example after we get out past the base price of $50 to show up. 4524. This is my second monitor here on this one for sure. I'll highly recommend 2 monitors if you're building this out yourself and not live on Facebook. 0.48 hours and 2143. All right, and we're going to save it. So obviously at this point we can go out and do the sidewalk melt the same exact way. For time's sake, I'm not going to do that, but obviously that's the way you do it. The only other one that we are missing right now is the salting. So let's do a V-box salter up to 5 cubic yards. And this is going to be parking lot salting. This will work the same for sanding if you're in different parts of the country that do that. And rate matrix once again. So doesn't matter what piece of equipment I'm using. If all I have is up to a 5 cubic yard spreader, the production rates are the same. So I'm just going to go in and grab the parking lot square footage. Again, we're going back to the blueprint. Kind of repetitive, but this is how we do it. So 1 to 10,000 is $100. Obviously, these prices are not realistic, but it's going to give you an idea of what process is to build this out. And 0.083 and 1668 labor and materials. And I'm just going to do every 10,000, over 10,000, we're doing 10,000 square foot increments. Is 100 more, 0.083 and 16.83. And we are going to save that. Now we've got our system set up. We've got our production rate based estimating in there. Now where do we go? So the next step is we're going to go back to that gear icon. And a little message from the wife upstairs working from home. So some good news there. What we're going to do here is go into templates, estimate job templates. And like I said, any comments or questions drop below. This is how we break out a production rate based estimating system in any software, but particularly this is how we break it out now in Service Autopilot. So we're going to add a template. Whole part of the template is it's going to preload all your services, set them up how you want them to look, and we're going to connect those documents. So as we go in, if you end up going in the Service Autopilot, the first page of the marketplace, and download the SimpleGrowth snow removal estimate contracts documents, these are the documents you'll actually see. So what I'm going to do is just name this at 000 commercial snow Facebook. All right, we're going to do this under both jobs and estimates. We're going to select the document. So that's where, if you pulled that off the marketplace, your estimate, the email that sends out the estimate comes in loaded with content, the actual estimate document, and the email that confirms to the client that they've accepted the estimate, all automated, outside of automations, obviously. So I'm going to go in and grab that document here. Let me take a minute to load. And we have quite a few of these in here. And let's see what we got. Well, I'm going to use the residential snow removal here just because that's quite a few, and that's the one that I've got in here. But that's going to connect the documents, and I'll show you what that looks like here. We also have a commercial one as well, as you can see in here as well. So the next thing here is we're going to go in and start adding these services. So I'm just going to go back to my blueprint and pull up the services in order as they come in. For that V-blade, the skid, and the backhoe, and then we'll get into sidewalk. So we're going to go in here, and I've made this a little bit easier for Facebook here and made these all 0. So I'm going to go in and grab my commercial snow removal. And then underneath that, I'm going to go in and add my services that are associated with that for my process. So I'm going to go in with the V-blade right here, and I'm going to include the default subservices. So I should load all those subservices in there, and then that's going to work for us as our template for based on different production rates. So this may take a second just to load in, but once it loads in, we'll have all our subservices for that process. So let's see if, like I said, the internet is a little janky right now with all the kids in school. So let's see if we can grab that again. Go and apply. All right, let me refresh this. For some reason, it is not liking that, but it should be pulling that in. I'm going to refresh right out of this, so let's give it a second. But traditionally, when we get the template loaded, we grab the parent service, then we grab the child service. That's going to load. So that's going to be our interior invisible estimating process there. And when you do that, that will let you hide the additional services. There we go. So what it does is sometimes on the first time it will duplicate those, and that is normal. So we'd want to delete that out. So now I've got my V-blade. I've got my 8-foot box plow on the skid. You want to make sure that you remember to deselect this extra checkbox. I'll show you this in a second right here, is that will pull all the other services connected to it. Now I need to get my loader. Right, and I think that is it. We've got quite a few in here, so that should do it. So now I've got my V plow, my pusher, and that loader did not connect. So let's get that in there. And it may not have, oh, backhoe, my bad. Here we go. This loader from another video, so let's leave that. So now we've got our V plow, our 8-foot pusher, and that. So now the next thing we want to go in is add in is salting. So parking lot salting, and we would add in a sidewalk shoveling. And now what we have is commercial plowing with 3 different types of equipment with different production rates, parking lot salting, and sidewalk shoveling. I'm going to call this the 000 snow commercial. Facebook Live. I'm going to associate that to estimates or jobs. I'm actually going to hit both. That's going to be the ability to select my document. Let's see if I can grab the commercial plowing one. If not, we have one here for residential plowing. And I'll put that in here just so it's an example with plowing. Like I said, in the SA Marketplace, we have all of them right here for if you want to tackle those. And we're going to save and close that. Now, our final step is we're going to go in and add a lead. And we are going to go in and put our old tester in here. Okay, and we're going to put in our property address. I'm going to make this. I'm going to put a commercial property in here where we can actually go in and measure the sidewalks and the parking lot, so you know exactly what that is. And I'm going to put my email in here so we can email it out and see what the contract looks like. And save. So once we have this now, we can actually go out and estimate this property. So whether you're on site or just from the office, both work actually pretty well, believe it or not. Other thing I did want to mention here while this is saving is under details, you'd want to select whether it's commercial and residential, and under sales, we also want to see what the lead source was. So what we're going to do is going into the more right here into Maps Pro or Smart Maps, and we will be able to hit that once this loads and go out and actually measure the property. So we're going to measure the square footage of the parking lot and assign that to what piece of equipment we're plowing with. In addition, we can go out and measure the sidewalk square footage. So let's take a look at it here once this loads, and we will be able to build this out here. But comments or questions drop below here. Internet obviously is just a little bit slow being in the basement here and with the kids using it for school upstairs. So working from home today. But if you can bear with me here, we will get this up and running and show you how to kind of bring this home. So how the measurements all play into this template we've built out. So definitely worth the extra 30-second wait here. This is untraditional, but things are crazy right now with COVID and the kids at home. So if you're working from home, I'd highly recommend it. I think something I'm going to probably do is go out and get business class internet for the house as well. So property measurements. This is going to pull up the satellite view, and we can go in and measure the property, and those measurements of the property automatically load into our pricing matrix and create property specific pricing. So we'll let this load. Like I said, very untraditional, but it is crazy times, and traditionally right around 12:30 Eastern is when we see these issues. So Jonathan says, thanks for so Jonathan says, thanks for redoing our estimating on lawn services, and the principles here all apply for us too. So yeah, absolutely, Jonathan, no worries. This is something we do. We've done this with several hundred companies for lawn care, home cleaning, and snow removal here. So I'm going to try not to cut this video short because I think this is really beneficial. So let me see worst case scenario. Let me see if I can log out of Service Autopilot and potentially log back in, just to get this to load maybe a little bit quicker. But that is very uncommon here. Let's see if we can pull this up. There we go. And let's see if this loads here. But what we're going to do is go in and measure this property with the square footage here. So hopefully this will work here for us. But like I said, things are a little bit crazy here with COVID and the internet speeds. So not really Service Autopilot, just it is what it is lately with the internet. Let me see. And I'm going to try something we don't traditionally do here on Facebook Live, but I may even dive into V3 to see if I can get that to work here. For some reason, the internet is it's giving me an interesting issue here. All right, there's our test account. So if you haven't seen V3, this is a new version of Service Autopilot. Pretty quick, and I like the way it works here. And the idea is you're going to go in to this, and now I've got two different screens open here, so that's probably why I didn't like it. But looks like our map may be loading here. So what we're going to do is go into satellite, grab the image. So this is what we're doing. This is what we've been waiting for. We're going to bump that out and show you what we're looking at. So the first thing here is I'm going to go in and do V-Blade. I enabled it up here, and I'm going to dial into this parking lot here and measure the parking lot of the plowing area. And I'm going to be really quick about it, but just to give you an idea. Okay, so that is the whole area there. And then what I'm also going to do is put building, track it out. And what we've got here is 36,000 square feet. And I'm going to highlight just the building here. If we go in, we can highlight it and change the color. So I'm going to save that there. And then I'm going to go into the custom field here and try to pull that up. And what I'm going to do is assign that to the V-blade. So what we would do is assign the square footage to the V-blade, the pusher, or the box plow on the backhoe. And once we do that, that's going to automatically insert those values into that. So right here is where we would do that. So for time's sake, internet's being a little bit funky here for me. Let me see if I can get this to load. There we go. So we'd go down and go to our 000 V-blade. And obviously you wouldn't have this many custom fields in your instance, but being a test account, we've got quite a few of them. So let's make this our skid steer square footage here, and we'll save that. And then let's also make it our square footage for a loader and our V-plow. So we'll get 2 or actually 3 different pricing breakouts based on the piece of equipment. And that will kind of give you an idea of what that looks like. Or if you got certain areas you're doing with the plow versus the truck, you can break those up and do those separately as well. So let's see here. There's the V-blade. And V-blade, and we've got, I believe, a backhoe left. So like I said, traditionally you'll be breaking these up separately. I'm just going to assign that to all of them just so you can kind of see the price differences and how this all works out. Parking lot square footage, we're also going to want to save that because that is for our salting. So the last thing we want to do is, I'm going to hold off on the extra piece of equipment for time, but what we'd also want to do is then go in and add a measurement here for sidewalks. And zoom in. And since I know this property, I can take some liberties, but this is what we would do. And I connected them. So you actually want to do it all in one fell swoop. So grab the inside and then you'd grab the outside of the sidewalk. So very similar to the questions from the Michigan snow removal group. This is how you'd actually do this, because this parking lot or this particular property has 3 and 4 foot wide sidewalks depending where you're at. So the square footage is 6,500 square feet. And we'd want to go into our 000 sidewalk. So let's see if we can find it. Like I said, you would never ever have this many custom fields either. Now, the one thing I really like about V3 is they have a search button where you don't have to scroll through these. And that's where I was going to go, but ended up in V2 here. So we are almost to the end of this list, hopefully, and we can get this. So any comments or questions, drop them below. Like I said, you'd never have this many custom fields, but in this testing, so you got a couple in here. No doubt about it. And if I can't find it in a minute, I'll just manually enter it in and show you where it came in. So, and that's what I'm going to opt to do. So basically, if I can't find it here, just because I've got so many test accounts in there, that's parking lot square footage. You don't want that one. I want sidewalk square footage. So I'll save it. Basically, you would save that in there, and that would go in and save that. So the next step, once you do that, that's 6,500 square feet of sidewalk. So I'd go in and hit add an estimate here. This is going to bring in our preloaded template as well. So I'm going to go in and grab our template from Facebook Live. Hopefully I selected the right custom fields being in this test account live on Facebook. No pressures, obviously, but you know, we've got this. This is something we do a lot of. So Once this loads, I'm going to grab the template, all the square footage to load in that we just saved, the price, budget, time, and cost, and then we can select our piece of equipment that's appropriate and send this out to the consumer as well. So let me refresh this here real quick. Like I said, the internet is significantly better upstairs and the kids are all on it. So this is part of the issues of working from home, trying to do it Facebook Live. Let's add an estimate. I want to select templates. And let's see if we can get this to load again. All right, there we go. Add an estimate, and we're going to select our template. Everything should load, and we can actually email this to ourselves to get this up and running. All right, I may make a second video here if this does not load for some reason down in the basement, but usually it's an extremely quick process. All right, one last shot here, and if not, I will make a secondary video to show you what it looks like, the final product here. But usually it's really quick. I'm just not sure if it's the internet down in the basement or the kids or what that may be. But I apologize. But I did want to answer this question because this is the second time at it here, and we had some technology problems earlier. So let's see if we can get this to load up. So let's try an incognito window. It's my last and final attempt here. But any questions how we set that up? But just breaking it down, and yeah, even an incognito window, it's got to be the internet here. So I do apologize about that. But the idea is once you have everything saved up, we go and hit add an estimate, and that will start to drive that process. It's a quick 30-second drop down, and we rock that right in there and just go in and hit it. So let's try it one more final time once this loads. Well, I'm not going to bore you with this anymore. I will make another video to show you how this pops up. But if you're wondering how this is set up, that's how you do it inside production rate-based estimating for the industry and how you actually get that into Service Autopilot. Comments or questions, drop below. Callahan's Corner, you ask questions. We answer them live right here on Facebook.